Hi, everyone. I'm David,
And Richard here.
and we are here with an update.
Finally, an
Again,
update. Sorry, everyone.
it's because there's just been tons happening.
Yep.
Maybe we should start with outreach and the non-tech stuff and go into tech stuff first.
Yep.
So I guess for me, the big stuff is I'm just back from York. There was a conference on mechanism design at York
Yep.
University. We attended, we presented the only crypto project. The presentation was okay. The private conversations were great. It was really interesting because what I've learned is the computer scientists are focusing on really much more interesting problems at a much more sophisticated level of analysis. And uh, we've had some productive conversations about Saito. And
Yep.
interestingly, we're better able to communicate with them than we are with the computer scientists
So you
because,
meant computer scientists, you meant economists that are operating at a high level.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's because they're used to handling multidimensionality.
Right.
And the difference is if I go to a computer scientist and I say we have a non-revelation equivalent mechanism, they don't know what it is and they don't care. If I go to an economist and say we have a non-revelation equivalent mechanism, they probably don't know, but they know they need to know. And
Right.
so you have a starting point for the conversation. And so one of the great things actually about the conference that I found really useful, on top of the fact that like other people are doing interesting research and you're like, wow, I didn't know someone was studying matching games on this topic, and you're modeling
Yeah.
kidney exchanges, right? That's interesting. Not Sato related, but it's interesting. And
Unless we can put it on Saito for them later. But anyway.
yeah. But anyway, so then we switch in, what are you doing? And it was really interesting because I kind of learned a bit better how to explain it. Putting together the presentation, it was correct, but it was focused on the mechanism. And so got feedback after the fact, went out for beers with a guy and he's like, it was an okay presentation, but like, it's not really that convincing at this kind of conference because it doesn't explain how equilibrium works. And it's like, well, we can talk about that. And so I had a really interesting conversation with the guy, and you kind of learn, oh, well, this is how you chat with them. And one of the ways you chat with them is you say, you can't do this and you can't do that. And those are the assumptions that you're using to solve 99% of problems. Not in an accusatory way, in a sense of as soon as you communicate, look, we value what you're doing. Of course, you can try this and you can try that, but you can't do it on a blockchain because the bids have time preference. And what's great about the economists is they instantly see it. And if you take a look at the computer scientists, they still haven't figured it out. They think you're buying block space like it's buying a banana. But as soon as you point out, no, like,
Yeah.
seriously, they're like, it's an auction for a banana. What do you value the banana at? And it's like, no, like you're buying something that needs to be protected against someone who's going to reorg it in the future. So the value that you're getting is related to its ability to resist
Yeah.
someone reorging, right? And as soon as you see that, the problem explodes because all of a sudden there's time preference. And if you look at the bids, like you can see what they're paying in Bitcoin or Ethereum or Saito, but you can't see how urgent that bid is.
Yeah.
And the private conversations where we're able to get with this were really useful because all of a sudden I could tell there was a tone shift. And the tone shift changed from, well, you're talking about mechanisms that aren't in the class of things that we study to, oh, wait a minute, there's a mathematical proof that they can do this.
Yeah.
So it was a really useful conference for me. I think it was a really useful conference for Saito. I'm really, really glad that I went, in part because it's also preparation for Sao Paulo, which
It
is
kind of
coming
sets
up.
it up, right?
That's the big one. It's got plenary lectures from about 6 Nobel laureates, 2 of which are directly related to what we're doing with Saito. So I don't know if they're going to be there. I'm hoping to get a chance to,
Yeah.
say hello to them. And we're just going to be a small presentation, but there are 3 presentations from computer science. This is the world's best conference on mechanism design. We made the cut. No one else in crypto made the cut, and I'm really looking forward to the chance to talk to people. And I'm really pleased about York because I think we've got an angle on doing it, which is giving them a puzzle. And it's weird that the puzzle almost abstracts Saito completely out of the picture, but when you see it,
Well,
you look at
it's kind of nice and humorous to have Saito in your back pocket because they're kind of like, oh, well, that would be super interesting if you could do it, and you're like, well, here's what I made earlier.
that was the interesting thing. I'm having beers with this guy, great guy, because we present this thing that's amorphous and they can't see anything wrong with it, but they're like, well, there's no mathematical proof that you're offering in this, which is true because the mathematical proof is in the Sybil paper.
Mm.
And I go, well, I can give you a puzzle, right? And what was interesting is that as soon as we got through the two things that the mechanism designers do, which is, can we get a truthful bid, or can we assume some kind of common prior of belief or time discounting or whatever?
Yep.
He goes, well, then it's impossible to solve. And it was interesting because that's when the roles reversed, because I'm like, well, we've got a mathematical proof that it's solvable. And he's like, no, you don't. I'm like, yes, we do. If you can tell me why it's impossible, that's fine. And he comes out, I'm like, no, that's Nash. That's a finite game, And so it was very interesting because you do this a bit and then they realize, wait a minute, these people actually know what they're talking about. And they begin, like, it's not nervousness. It's transitions into something that's
So it's
exciting.
that academic feeling of I might have to open up what I think about this, right? Like, which is pleasant and concerning for an academic at the same time.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because mechanism design is much like computer science in the ways they like to model things. And we're coming at them and we're saying, well, actually, there's Knightian uncertainty going on and there's time preference going on. And nobody in computer science is doing this. They haven't even, they literally are modeling it like an auction for bananas. These are the guys, by the way, that are setting the Ethereum fee mechanisms. Right. So, there's a reason it's failing. And it's because the value of making a transaction on Ethereum is not the same mentally as the value of buying a banana. But that aside, it means that economics is actually, it's much more receptive because as soon as they see the problem, the discipline recognizes uncertainty. It recognizes time preference. Like this is the hardest part. This is where you're getting down to Keynes and Ullman and like what is rationality. And there were some good conferences and there were some good conversations there, chatting with people, pointing out, like, if you're playing a Keynesian beauty contest, people can disagree about what kinds of dimensionality are even in play, but you still get a price for who's the most beautiful, Right. So York was great. Sao Paulo is going to be next month. It's very exciting. I'm hoping it does well. I think we're making progress on talking to people.
It feels like doors are starting to open for us too. The connections into the space, and people are starting to at least know that we're there and think about these points. Which is,
I had dinner with a guy who's working on circular mechanisms, and it's interesting because he's trying to do it in this traditional worldview. And I'm saying, well, are you sure that by adding this assumption, you're not making the problem impossible to solve? And he doesn't have an answer. And it's not an attack. It's actually you're having the discussion at the level where you should be having the discussion. Is this a deviation? And this is, again, it's one of the computer science things. It's like we see it with MEV. It's like, we don't want the protocol doing this. We don't want the protocol doing that. And often that's wrong. It's like, no, you want the optimal amount of MEV. You want the optimal amount, which it's so optimal that even the person getting ripped off would be worse off if the person ripping them off couldn't do precisely that amount of MEV. Because they'd go into business or they'd shut the chain or economic activity wouldn't allow
the value of the token would go down.
It's like it's a free market problem. So it was really good. I had a good time. Anyway, so we had a break from coding to go and do hardcore economic theory, and it was fun. And we're going to do that.
Plenty of coding that went along with that, but we'll get onto that.
There was coding.
I think just to round out outreach, I mean, the biggest thing that's been happening is the pod, and that's been growing at a good 15 to 30% week on week consistently. I think that's that's small numbers when you're starting out and you're incrementing from zero from the start, but it's growing and growing, and so we really appreciate people sharing it, getting it out there, whether it's the live version or the kind of released podcast, which we started dropping on the weekend because it seems to get a better uptake. People are looking for something to add to their feed and listen on the weekends. So that's been going really well as the Ape to Earn stuff that we've kind of been collaborating with the Ape Bond team. It's not another bond. It's just using their kind of crowdsourced promotional stuff. And we'll talk a bit about that later, but that's also been getting a nice stream of fresh faces on Red Square and interested in the other socials and kind of asking questions and stuff. So we can feel like we've found some things there that we're getting value as we kind of ramp up what we're doing in
It
those
was
spheres.
I saw a sign on the tube in London where it was like a list of the countries that had VPN controls, and UK was being added right to the bottom. It's
Yeah,
crazy to me.
yeah,
I tried to visit Reddit there, and it's like you have a Reddit account. Let's check your name.
yeah,
It's absurd, like
yeah. No,
the
it's
amount of speech
yeah,
controls. So I these issues.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
this is another thing. I mean, Citizen from your part of the world shared with me a long list. We talked about some of his questions on the pod last night, but a huge like kind of review of what's happening in Canada, and it's like Canada have
Mm.
come in fifth or sixth with a kind of raft of this stuff. So each time each country does it, they see what's happened elsewhere, and they're like extending it. So the legislation coming in there is quite frightful, and
It's
also
clearly the bureaucratic and security state wants to do it. It's clear they want to vacuum information and they want to have information on people.
right,
Inappropriate relationship between individual and state.
yeah,
Totally inappropriate. However, they've got the reasons, and one of their reasons is it flows from the political attitudes in the country. Canada's
yeah.
got trouble.
Yeah, and it's super interesting, but it's sort of these things that for us, we used to be issues back in China kind of thing where you like had this state mediated internet,
Yeah,
and more that's just where everywhere is moving,
yeah,
and so I think people are really hearing that message and they're connecting the dots with what we're doing at Saito to why it's important, and that's gone from something peripheral or on the back of people's minds to it's becoming a daily trenchant thing. And I think that's one
yeah.
reason the pod's like picking up is people are just trying to make sense of what they're seeing and understand it. Is this as bad as it
Well,
feels or seems or
you get the traffic up, and then I'll come on and crash it. Okay.
the language?
We're like,
Don't
let's
say
do
that.
this again.
Don't
Uh,
say that.
let's go on to Dev.
Yeah.
Um, we got great stuff happening. Great news. The
Yep.
store. We had our first atomic swap on the network refactor branch. If you
Yep.
want to play around with it, you want to play around with scripting. This is when you're selling an NFT on the store, it's an atomic transaction. The payment and the transfer happens simultaneously.
Yep.
So it's one of these situations. We don't even need time locks and stuff, because if the payment is unwound, the transfer of asset is unwound at the same time. This is
Yep.
really actually super powerful stuff. And
Yeah.
we're doing it with smart contracts too. And so it's really lightweight. There's a lot that can flow out of this.
Yeah.
This is the reason that we moved from the store down to the network refactor and then
Yeah.
eventually back up at the
All the
store.
way back
So
up.
it's the reason things have taken longer. It also means the store is inventory free.
Yeah.
If you are
It,
interested in selling something, go ahead.
well, no, I'm just saying, like, the atomic swap thing, I'm not sure people get how important that is, but it gives us the ability to kind of do a DDEX, right? A decentralized DEX where you could literally just publish to the network, I'm offering these
I
prices,
mean,
right, on these things.
it
And
would actually be MEV free in a way.
yeah,
The reason it works is what you're doing is you're not giving something to the store.
yeah,
You're publishing a transaction on chain that says, with a script, I will accept a transfer under these conditions.
yeah,
So the conditions are that either I want to move it, I'm allowed to move it, that's
yeah,
delisting it, right?
yeah,
Or the store is allowed to do it under these conditions. And so what the store does is it just monitors the chain.
yeah,
And one of the conditions is it's allowed to move if the payment flows are reversed.
yeah,
So like the store is not taking control of things and putting it in its wallet, and then the store wallet is hacked, you're kind of screwed, because or like
yeah,
the store pays in Saito and the store gets ripped off. If you want to run a store on Saito, you can do it totally trustlessly, and you can be confident that
yeah,
no one is going to strip your server wallet unless they've hacked the server. They can't play time games on transactions. It's also when I made the comments about you can start running DEXs. This is one of the really interesting things, right? Where you can publish a transaction to the chain, or you'll be able to, on the network refactor, you could do it today, where it says anybody could spend this transaction and take the Saito if in the same transaction that gives it to someone else,
yeah,
there is an output that sends this amount of this NFT or this amount of this token to me,
mm,
which means you've got order books. The
yeah,
order book is is not like you're not depositing
That's
it.
nuts because it could also be tokens on both sides. So you could have you're basically publishing an offer to complete an atomic swap.
Yeah.
This transaction can go to anybody if there's a matching one that gives me $10 or 10 happy
Saito
coins or
USD,
whatever. Yeah,
SUSD, you create it as an NFT, you
yeah,
mint it. As people deposit USD or whatever, you share out the USD, and then you've got a two-way decentralized marketplace. And the reason there's no MEV on this approach is in order to make the trade, you make the transaction and you
mm,
submit it to the blockchain.
yeah,
Now, the block producer who gets it, if they want to rip you off, they could try to steal that trade and say, well, that looks like a really fat profit. I want that. I want more USD. I'm going to take that rate. What they can't do is what MEV is. They can't put a buy ahead of you,
yeah,
force you to make this trade at a worse exchange rate, and then do a sell after you and rip you off.
yeah,
They've got to assume the full risk of the purchase you're doing because they've got to be spending the transactions under the terms that the order books are providing. So it's actually really interesting. And once you know how it's done with UTXO, you look at the Ethereum people going, oh, MEV, MEV. And it's like, well, you've made a conscious decision
yeah.
to
To
structure things in a way that enables this. There are alternatives.
yeah,
But they're going to find out about this too late, and they're going to be on the back foot with people saying, why the hell
yeah,
aren't you
yeah,
using smart contracts to do different kind of order books? But the reason also is that we're not going to jump into doing an order book because we want to think about it, but it's a thought experiment for what we can do, and we have an open question about how we should do it. Like, should we
yeah,
have a stable coin on Saito at some point? It's going to be
yeah,
possible. We'll just do it as an NFT.
yeah. So I think that it's worth like going back into that topic because I think it surprised me when I realized what was possible with that. Just starting to think
Also,
about it. Like,
it's so much easier for app integration. Like, we've got to update Substack, the
yeah,
Substack module, Saito Stack, whatever,
yeah.
whatever.
No
Not
copyright
saying they're
infringement
the
here.
same thing,
Yeah,
but you
put
publish a
your own
blog
conclusions.
post. If you want to put access keys onto the blockchain, all you do is you publish them to an address that says I can move them anytime. It's an NFT,
Yep,
or the store can do it. That's a listing.
yep,
You don't even need integration between the store. The store just processes and says, oh, hey, list asset. Okay, well, I'll index it. And if
yep,
it's indexed, it'll show up we can make it show up in the Substack or the Sato Stack list of access keys. So we're going to be using this for really painless integration between the apps that we have. I don't want to say anything about apps that I know that are happening, but if
yep,
you're working on something or you have ideas, access controls with store integration is going to be so painless with this approach.
yeah.
There's no
It's so powerful because I mean it's like access controls, but it's also things like the scripting lets you do things like hop counts or ownership counts before you can do certain things. So it allows you to create tickets that can
well
be
that
on sold once. That kind of stuff. This is crazy.
right, like the time-based subscriptions is a script
Yeah,
that says if you want to access like my blog content, you have to have purchased this in the last 12 months. Now, the problem is you don't want to create 1,000 keys to your Sato Stack blog, put them on the store. 6 months goes by, you're selling 12-month subscriptions that are still only good for 6 months,
yeah,
right? No one wants to buy a 12-month subscription for 6 months. And it's a bunch. So the solution for this is actually using routing SIGs. And
yeah,
the scripting language can recognize and process routing paths. So that's why for that particular sale, the listing script says, and the store can sell it
yeah,
because you're relying on the store when it transfers it, because you're not online, to add this routing SIG. And the script says for access, if the store has this
yeah,
routing SIG in it, treat the transfer time as the starting time of purchase.
yeah,
Can't do this on other blockchains. You cannot do this on smart contracts by default. Another beautiful thing, like it's wonderful. You can do royalty-free transfers. No, you can prevent royalty-free transfers the other way around,
yeah.
right? You can't
I
do
mean,
this on
you
Ethereum.
can do the royalty free version, but the exciting thing is,
Can, yes. A lot of people, OpenSea, a lot of these NFT marketplaces, they came out and they said, okay, well let's enforce royalties for NFT creators, and the artists are like, great, because I can sell it. And if it becomes popular, I'm going to make 5 cents on every trade or 5% or whatever.
Yeah.
But the smart contract approach with Ethereum breaks this, because as soon as it became inconvenient, people said, well, I'm going to write a smart contract that takes ownership of an NFT and that trades tokenized access to that NFT, providing withdrawal anytime.
Yeah.
It's taking a shotgun to the head of the transfer tax and saying, well, we don't need to trade that. We can transfer the token. You can't do that with Saito because there's no smart contract where you can lock it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only thing you can do is transfer. So royalty enforced transfers are going to be possible on Saito. There may be some very technically arcane ways around it, but they all break the trust assumptions of the blockchain. So if you try to do it, you pay for it, right? Like, you can't guarantee that the guy whose public key has that. You can't guarantee that 50 people don't have that. Do you really want to transfer like your ape in there? Well, you know, you're moving it off chain. So there's a lot that's exciting that's happening. That's store, that's pure to script hash. Those are multiple inputs now. Our first version, there was a transaction have one. Now it can have 2, 3, 4. So yeah, you could like settle a DEX just by combining inputs and outputs and distributing.
Yeah, I just love the idea that you can kind of have a decentralized exchange where you can do it all, but without even having the exchange there in the first place. You can literally just publish offers to the chain and have them picked up.
You're literally just, you go to someone who's indexed offers and you yourself figure out the order book, combine them into a valid transaction that passes the scripts for all of the inputs. And hey, man, there's profit for you. You're being paid for the search and optimization.
Yeah,
we know the price.
Yeah, you could do it. You could literally do it yourself if you're wanting to trade. You could just listen generally for offers, but then indexes could also make some cash just by performing the service. So it's pretty cool. We should keep
like half an hour.
This
we've been, congratulations, guys. But you know what's happening now. It's
By the way, when David gets on planes, it's like 3 days worth of ordinary dev for some reason. I can't work on a plane. He seems to get a lot done. So
no, I get the work,
no planes.
I get the work done ahead of time on the plane, and then on the plane, I'm like, I should really work on my presentation, or I should really work on like 3 hours playing chess or something, procrastinating. You know.
Cool. But, so I think one other little piece of code that's come out is. And there is a bigger story we'll get to in a second, but is just a reworked Explorer. So we've wanted for a long time to have an Explorer with a fuller feature set and
it
also
doesn't look terrible.
Yeah, something that's not just an internal debugging tool that people are making do with. And we figured that was an essential part of kind of the strategy for the rest of the year, and also to help us debug and make sure that the testing is thorough. Which we've been flat out on torturing blockchains and getting too good at it.
The original block explorers for testing, people are like, why does the block explorer look like that? It's because we're working on the hard problems, but we agree. So the new one looks a bit like Etherscan,
I mean it's not gonna like
designed it. You're like Etherscan.
That's what people know. The one that does the heavy lifting in the space, so why not take the lead from them? The big thing is, we have been torturing blockchains and nodes, trying to make them cough up extra coins or delete them or fail to sync or all the bad things and in between things that can happen. And we've been coming out pretty clean on that. So we have a clean sheet. So it's really a matter of nailing down these last pieces around these changes, so the UX, the UI, etc. And then we're good to go with the refactor. Yep.
The interesting thing is that there's so much that's new, and that's why we're being careful about it, right? Like pay to script hash is totally new. This just doesn't exist on the version of Saito we're recording this on. So we want to get store listings, and we're also trying to take advantage of the fact that it's a big upgrade to make sure that when the software goes live, it's polished and new and the stuff is working. Because I think with the current version, like there's a lot of edge cases where it's broken, and I think even the devs sometimes are like, does it work? Like, does file transfer work? I've had it break in the past, and we want to get to the point where literally everything is flawless, because what's going to be happening is these pay to use features are going to be more and more visible. Like
Yeah.
you're on Saito Stack. Do you want to
Yeah.
publish on the blog? It's going to take you 10 cents to make some
Yeah.
NFTs to give friends access. Like it's not a big deal, but you're going to need them.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's no one ripping
Yeah.
you off. This is the way the blockchain works. You need to have an NFT to give
Yeah.
them so they can visit and read your blog.
Yeah.
You can charge whatever you want.
Yes, I mean, I think that's a really good segue into wrapping up this somewhat extensive update, which is basically to talk about how all of this dev that we've been doing fits together, why we've been, scope creeping and adding things to the mix, which is basically, the kind of the storyline is we started with store and just not being happy with the store experience we could create with the scripting and NFT system we had.
Well, we weren't using scripting then. It was NFT transfers. You give the NFT the store, and then it tells you the transaction. You can broadcast a delist, and it's like, back and forth.
Yeah, so we kind of that, and then a real urge to get peers and the networking side of things just crisper and better. A small note for node runners and other people who've been asking me about this. It's a little important fact about the refactor and the upgrade that's coming. The node software is not backwards compatible at the network layer. That means old nodes and new nodes don't know how to talk to each other, so we'll need to have a coordinated update. The blockchain itself hasn't changed. So there's nothing in the blockchain structure. So new nodes will be able to upgrade and then reload the chain that they had in place and keep moving. And there's no issues with that. They won't need to reprocess it or anything like that.
So, if you connect to our server and you haven't upgraded the network, our server is going to be like, look, we worked on it.
Yeah.
You can do this.
Yeah. So we'll coordinate with the node runners about letting people know when that needs to happen. But that's just a little side thing. I just thought I'd say it just then because it occurred to me a few people have asked.
You basically also working on rewards because we kind of haven't mentioned this in a while. Part of we're kind of mentally treating the network refactor as network upgrade for app stability for outreach. So
I think that the kind of the mental picture I have of it is that we couldn't get the store experience right. We had these sort of ongoing network glitches, which we wanted to sort out once and for all. In going down into rabbit hole, we kept sort of, there's always a question, where do you stop? And the picture that became clear was that the strategy for ongoing has to be to bring activity on chain and to bring users on chain. That's why we wanted the store in the first place.
And to show people that this is a crypto network because we've been developing and historically most of the applications have not been, we want to charge you $20 for this video call.
Exactly. Right? We've been trying to build awareness, etc. That's what the way we've coalesced all of this work is that together, and the way I see it is that together, this is what we need. It's a necessary set of things that we need to be able to build and extend the software that we have and the network to do anything we need to do in terms of being able to bring people onto the network and get them to start using Saito. That's not going to happen by itself. So we're going to match this software upgrade with campaigns, letting people know that, some incentives, and we've kind of agreed we'll get the details out next week on. We'll also put in a kind of mark or celebrate the event with a set of rewards for existing holders, because a big part of this is going to be about encouraging people to get their Saito on chain, getting new people to come and start getting their Saito on chain. And then, of course, a way to do that is to give people more and more reasons.
Well, it's also a thank you. I mean, I don't think people understand in the scheme of things how small a project we are. And that's because there's a lot of really massive projects that have gone belly up and they've been mismanaged and they didn't manage to accomplish anything. And we're an organic, small project being driven by people who care about the problems we're talking about, right? It's weird. It takes people time to figure that out. It's like, wait a minute, no, they do care about this.
A lot.
By the way, here's one idea for video call. We could have an NFT that like it's fractional, but you're buying like every 10 minutes, it needs to send a certain fractional amount in
Huh.
the call.
Yeah.
So we could do that. Anyway, we're looking at things like this and we're trying
Yeah.
to figure out what the right balance should be, right? Like we don't want to get rid of the freemium features. We're not going to get rid of the freemium features like video
Yeah.
call. It's your bandwidth, you
Yeah.
know? Like we're not going to charge you for your bandwidth, but there are probably some things where we're going to want to say, if you've got Saito in your account or you're paying a fee for
Yeah.
this, it's faster and better. And so I
Well,
think we're going to be thinking about that. And it's an open question, I think, also for the community
mm,
to come in on, because
yeah.
it's an opportunity to convince people actually, if I had Saito in my account, I'm going to have a better experience.
Well, I think that's sort of like step one to creating a value token is just to have situations where the first time someone thinks, "Do I want to do that with this Saito?" Right? Like, do I want to spend it on that? That shows that they're starting to value it. So I don't want to waste it, or I do need it for this, or I've got that thing in
Yeah.
mind for this. Once that's happening, then there's a demand for it. We've got a lot of bootstrapping questions that will be answered, I think, on the way through, but it would be hubris to think we know the exact answers now
Yeah.
in terms of what role does the faucet play, what role does fees for what activity, how do we carve that up? Like, do we start using a faucet and fees for socials, but we leave gaming subsidized, essentially the transactions there, the nodes don't charge for them. And of course, this is only what the project's doing. Other people can come in and start charging for whatever they choose to from any time they choose to, which could include just running a tightly curated experience. It could just be your own software. So we'll get.
You could run a private community and say, on connection, you've got to own an NFT to use this server.
Yep.
Something as simple as that. It's like family and friends.
Transfers over a certain amount start attracting a fee. There's lots of options on how we can introduce this. We obviously don't want to slow down organic growth. At the same time, we want to do everything we can to create those moments where people think about what's happening with their Saito and they start valuing it on chain for the experiences they can have.
Also, as soon as people realize, like, the scripting language is unique in that it's different than a smart contract and it's different than Bitcoin scripting. And so it does have advantages, and a lot of people, I think, like, crypto is just indifferentiated. And so people who they understand proof of stake and they think, well, everything's like this, the problems are unsolvable. They don't actually realize, as soon as they start realizing, wait a minute, no, actually there are different solutions. This one is better. And you don't have any of it.
Yeah.
That's the emotion that we want to provoke in people, because it also motivates them to learn what we're doing, and that motivates them to realize, holy shit, actually there's a fundamental solution out there. So
and I think another, just to enhance on that as well, another thing I've seen with the ape to earn type campaigns with decentralizing, like not going to KOLs, but allowing community to access a pool of rewards for doing productive, it's very Saito kind of approach, for doing productive outreach. I'm exploring ideas with those guys and some other guys about doing things like decentralized hackathons. So instead of it being a pizza party for some people to like enjoy and sort of cosplay at actually developing an ecosystem, to have a system where we can have some rewards out there, and we can, and particularly with AI, I think there's a lot of interesting quick ways to develop apps that are useful, and a way we can do that at a more grassroots level that's not just a promotional thing. It's actually designed to help people getting involved and understanding how scripting works, what they can do with it, what kind of DeFi tricks they can use to make really compelling experiences. So we'll be getting out a kind of a roadmap, an overall picture of how we're wanting to do this and the goals, etc. I'm hoping next week. And people can see from that, like, kind of how things are going to be going, and that's going to be guiding us over the next 6 months. The team's going to get together and look at all of our broad goals, and there's a lot of things we can be doing. We'll also be, I think, putting out some of it. We might just publish. These are roadmap things, or these are things we'd really like to build, like a PWA version of the chat app for phones, right? Like a really nice, slick, just intro to Saito that way. If anyone wants to take it on, like, it's not, like, we're not proprietary.
Does anyone want to take on a DEX or run the stable coin? let us know.
We'll support you in any way we can. Seriously, so we'll be getting out and doing more of that. And I think one of the reasons, again, for the depth of work we've done on the refactor is to get David and Maya and other team members' time freed up from any need to do any core work, and to be able to free it up to doing exactly this kind of thing: promotion, outreach, working with third-party devs, working on AI tooling to make it easy to build modules, all that kind of thing. So look out for that, if not next week, shortly afterwards. And we'll be getting some news as well about some kind of rewards for people who've been supporting us so far, because it's been a very, very big part of where we are now, and we really want to let people know that we appreciate it. So I think
this
that's
was a
the list.
10-minute update.
43 minutes in.
Thanks for making it, guys. But yeah, no, I mean,
amazingly, just a little side note, distracting me on Telegram to the side here on this monitor. Spicy asks if we'd mind him making a video about just how awesome atomic swaps on Saito are and how big a deal they are. So in the update, Spicy, go for it. We'd love you to do that. Your videos are great. And I'll answer in Telegram once
he digs spicy. He digs down. He's going down. Like it's interesting. Not a lot of people go down to the informational levels. And
I think Spicy and Zytopath are the current vanguard of the citizenry in my.
I mean, the guys get it. It's and I got to say, like, it's so refreshing when people get it. So thank you guys. And for the rest of you guys, if anyone has any questions, or if you're talking to people about Saito and they don't understand it, you're welcome to rope us in any time or ask us questions. Like when I'm doing outreach at York and Sao Paulo, I'm trying to talk to people about these problems. That's why we're doing it. 45 and a half minutes. Can we close in 30 seconds, Richard?
I think we can. Yep, let's do it. Thanks everyone for sticking with us through this long update, and we'll look forward to keeping you up to date.